Peaky Blinders is a crime series released for the first time by BBC in 2013. In the first season of the show, a central place in the narrative is occupied by the power struggle among the characters, and especially between the two protagonists, Thomas Shelby and his opponent, Inspector Campbell. In this video essay, we are going to focus on how the characters are presented to the audience, looking at how the camera work stages the conflict between those two characters and how lighting is used to depict such conflict. How the characters are presented to the audience. The first episode starts with Thomas Shelby riding a horse through Birmingham. People run away, people hide, not only from his presence but also from the power he holds. The camera portrays him from the ground, showing us the power that he carries when he enters his territory. While he enters the pub, slow motion is used for the first time to stress his appearance. The other character, Inspector Campbell, is being transferred to the Garrison precinct to solve a case about the missing arms, and he is determined to take down the gangsters, which is the Peaky Blinders. Later on, when Inspector Campbell set foot on the land from the train, slow motion is being used again to empower his arrival in the city. The slow motion technique in this episode is used only for those two characters to stress the connection between them. Campbell and Shelby are the leaders of the respective groups, and they hold significant power. To present them, the show tends to use low-angle shots to display the status of those two characters, which are above the others. In these two group scenes, when the inspector walks in for the first time into the precinct, he occupies the exactly center of the frame. During his speech, the shots being used are the typical of the political speeches. The way Campbell talks and his hand gestures are very theatrical, which suggests he is able to manipulate the whole group. On the other hand, when the criteria of Peaky Blinders is presented, we can see that the older brother Arthur is in the center of the frame, so it seems like he is the boss of the family. Later, during the family meeting, as we can see in this frame, Tommy stands in the spot of interest of the frame. If we draw a line of everyone's eyesight, we can notice how it crosses at where Tommy is. This implying that he is in full control of the family business. And it goes way interesting when they meet each other. How the camera work stages the conflict between those two characters. In the second episode of the first season, there is one of the most significant scenes that shows how the power relation between those two characters is changing. This is the first time that Inspector Campbell sees Thomas. Here we can see Campbell is in the 1/3 place of the total frame, which implies the pressure he's facing. When they start to discuss their agreement, notice that the director started to use the unsteady cam to show the tension between those two characters. Here we can see both of the characters occupy half of the shot, which divided equally in half to half. When they sit down, the directors start to use reverse shot between those two characters to see how they are doing the agreement. But notice that when Thomas starts to saying that he got more leverage on it, let's see how the camera moves. It starts to zoom in slightly, suggesting that his power is starting to rise. When the chief starts to ask,
"What do I get in return?"
Notice here, the camera across the axis. If you put all the camera on the paper, it looks like this. Notice the green one just crossed the axis. It implies how the power is being reversed. See here, after Thomas came back, there's another one. Let's see how the director is showing Chief now is in low confidence. The Chief's face is covered by the shoulder of Thomas, and his face is gradually fading away. First, we could still see the whole face, but now there are only the eyes, suggesting that the Chief Campbell is on the losing side of the agreement. There's another important scene between Thomas and Campbell in the 4th episode. There are similar camera movements to display the power relations. The show collocates them in the equal half of the shot, as it did in the previous meeting.
I'll get information. Protection.
Suddenly, Thomas walks out of the frame, leaving Campbell alone on the screen, taking the center spot of the action. The camera focuses on Campbell, following his movements.
I'm afraid that Mr. Churchill has become an impatient.
From this over-the-shoulder shot, the camera has been set up at a low angle, making him look dominant over Thomas.
With mallets and spades.
Right after, we have a slight zoom in on Thomas, symbolizing the tension is growing between them.
The only one to be spared.
And the director did another cross-the-axis shot, pointing out the power balance has changed.
For boys like him.
The use of lighting. The movement of the camera and the light composition can also express the character's mental activity. While the show is revealing Campbell taking the lead in this competition of power, light also plays an important role in the conflicts. In this scene, there are two main light sources set up. One is outdoor, a blue soft light to simulate the moonlight, and the other is an orange hard light to fill the character in the room. Both are top light, which create a skull-like light structure on the character's face, intensifying the atmosphere of danger and mystery. This scene is based on the equal agreement in the beginning of the conversation. The two characters negotiate a deal.
You have my word.
The director uses the silhouette effect. Their brightness is basically the same, and this generates harmony between them. At the same time, they are all in the shadows and shows the dark nature and illegality of the deal. After the deal is concluded, Campbell threatens Tommy, and the light changes. Here, the distribution of the light on the two characters in the scene is significant. First, the top light is always close to Tommy, and Campbell is always in the dark. Secondly, the head of Campbell always blocks the light, so that the face of Campbell is always in the dark. The situation this time is not conducive to Tommy, because his actions are exposed to light. It suggests to the audience a sense of oppression, and at the same time, the evil side of Campbell is being revealed.
Where men have the most appetite for boys like him. Oh, that would be a dark day indeed, Mr. Shelby. If my dismissal comes before your decision. You understand?
Tommy is surrounded by darkness, which also implies the tension and pressure given from Campbell. The show takes full advantages of night environment and carefully arranges the light for the more effective narration. The lighting, thus, conveys the characters' inner activities and emotional changes, making the scene more impactful and further deepening the competition between Thomas and Campbell. This video essay demonstrates, therefore, how the show's been added and the lighting are being used to give a shape of this diegetic world, thus helping the viewer to understand the different elements of the narrative in an extremely effective way.